How long has Kuma been helping Luffy? That's the question of the day.
What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about to be that time.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
No, brother. I appreciate you. This sounds like a new opportunity.
Savage. And we're back. Chapter 1100 is out. 1100. A milestone chapter. I've got to get used to putting an 11 in front of those. I don't know how many of these we have left. I fully expect we'll get 1200, but I don't know if we'll get 1300. I do feel like we're in the end game of everything, and we could get 1299, but I don't know if we'll get 1300. Happy to be wrong, though. Happy to be wrong. There's a lot of stuff to get into with this chapter, especially considering that I fully expected the flashback to end. So now we have to talk about what are the possibilities of what else we're going to see. I fully expected we would see other things. I just thought it would be something we would come back to, or we would get it from Bonnie telling the Straw Hats because she was in the memories. But we may actually get all of it right now, so we do have to break it down, get into the symbolism of Kuma even being at Foosha Village. What does this mean? So let's just get into it. But first, like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. Wow. Oda really wants to take it back to the barrel. He really wants to take it there. He wants to go back to Volume 1. He wants to go back to Chapter 1. Where are we in the story canonically? Well, I can tell you for one thing, Luffy is, at the very least, 15, 16, maybe even bordering on 17 when Kuma is here. Why? Because we see Kobe, and he's with Alvida, and Kobe had told Luffy that he was with Alvida for 2 years. Luffy left his island when he was 17. So this scene that's happening here, Kuma being at Foosha Village, is within that time frame. And I'm willing to bet that it's very close to Luffy setting sail on his journey, because the symbolism of chapter 1101, 1101, reflects chapter 1, which ends with Luffy claiming that he's going to be king of the pirates and taking out the Sea King, right? What if we get another version of that? We did get another angle of that during the ASL flashback. Different dialogue is said, like he, dresses Sabo before he starts his journey. Will we get something to that effect here, but learn that Kuma was watching all along? How long has Kuma been helping Luffy? That's the question, right? Is he there because of the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika? Shanks took the fruit and then Luffy ate it, right? But what if it's a situation where they've always been looking in the East Blue for this? Because they know that Shanks didn't eat it. They don't know where it is, so it has to be somewhere around there. Is he going to be on orders from the Gorosei to look for someone that is rubbery, right? But then somehow he's going to realize the connection to Nika and maybe tell the Gorosei that he didn't find the fruit, even though he did, because he wants to see liberation. Kuma has always been relayed to us as like the perfect warlord, right? The one that follows orders. Although every time we see him, he is always constantly defying those orders. He goes to Thriller Bark, he is supposed to take out Luffy. What does he do? He does not take out Luffy. He's at the archipelago. Again, not helping Kizaru and Sentomaru take out the Straw Hats. He is actively sending them to islands where they can help each other. He then protects their ship for 2 years. How does that line up with the deal that he struck with Saturn to protect Bonnie? He is never going along with what they're saying. So that begs the question of, was Kuma following Luffy? Are we going to see a situation where he was there at key events and maybe even interfered or didn't interfere? You know, is he the Watcher from Marvel? But it would be really interesting. Like, he doesn't have to be at Orange Town and Seer Village and all of that, but it would be really interesting to find out that Kuma was at Logue Town, because Dragon was there. And Dragon was also in this chapter, which we had been theorizing he would show up at 1100. All he did was have some ellipses. He didn't make a big move or anything like that, but he was still in the chapter. Finding out that Kuma and Dragon had a conversation in Logue Town will inform some dialogue that we get during Thriller Bark, where we as an audience know that Kuma does know that Luffy is Dragon's son. He knows this. Ivankov didn't know, but Kuma does. So what we're doing here, and what Oda has been doing with the Kuma flashback in the first place, is clearing up plot holes, or, you know, really just filling the holes that were in the story. They're not necessarily plot holes, they're just things that hadn't been fully explained to us yet. But the biggest plot hole, that it actually is a plot hole, was something that people were talking about a lot during like 1044, 1045, all of this, when the Nika stuff was coming out. If the Gorosei were so afraid of this fruit, why weren't they actively pursuing it once Luffy became, you know, a notable pirate? And this was all a very valid concern. I've always defended it as, well, they actually did try on several occasions to go after him. It wasn't like they just sat back and let him continue doing what he was doing. They threw as much as they possibly could at him, but the interesting thing here is if they pulled back their search from the Goa Kingdom because Kuma tells them that it's not there. And the other interesting thing, and I've brought this up before, is the moment that Luffy eats the fruit, Garp is like, no, you need to go into the woods now. Does Garp know the truth of this fruit? Being as high up in the Marines as he is, does he know that the Gorosei have been looking for this fruit in the first place? And now his grandson eating it means that he's got a target on his back. Will Kuma and Garp have some sort of a conversation about this? I don't know. Does Dragon know? And he relays this information to Kuma at Logue Town. There are a lot of really interesting opportunities for conversations that really just fix a lot of things here if Oda chooses to go down this route. And considering that this is 1101, Oda's birthday is 11 January 1st, chapter 1 is when Luffy, you know, goes off on his journey, I could see the next chapter ending with Luffy punching the Sea King again, yelling that he's going to be king of the pirates, but now it's just from Kuma's perspective. And that could be very interesting. And there has been a trend with the 01 chapters mentioning King of the Pirates, mentioning the goal, reaffirming this idea. We saw this in 601, which this chapter will be 500 chapters from that. That was Return to Sabati, right? And he's yelling at Rayleigh, and he says, I'm going to be king of the pirates, after he just took out a pacifista. So this could be a mirror of that 500 chapters later. Chapter 801 had Doflamingo talking about Roger being the Pirate King and that the race to become the Pirate King is on. Chapter 901 was Big News Morgans basically saying that Luffy has a shot at becoming the Pirate King, or at least somebody in the worst generation could be. Chapter 1001 was Luffy and Kaido and Big Mom arguing over becoming King of the Pirates. Now, could this be a situation where we see Luffy shout this, even if it's not at the end of the chapter, but Kuma getting inspired by Luffy yelling this as well? So that there are different perspectives and different affirmations and reaffirmations anytime we have a 01 chapter. Now, it doesn't work for all of them, but it's worked for enough to where there is kind of a pattern. Chapter 1101 will be 1000 chapters from 101, which is the chapter where the Straw Hats enter the Grand Line. It is the Reverse Mountain chapter, and really the spiritual chapter 1 to the start of their journey as a true pirate crew, when you take into consideration that the first 100 chapters is kind of like a prologue. So Oda may consider 1101 to be the spiritual true chapter 1000. And if we see a bunch of these callbacks to chapter 1, that may prove this point. The other interesting thing is if we follow Bonnie, and it's actually Bonnie being the mirror. So the chapter ends with Bonnie setting off on her journey after she has disguised herself as Queen Dowager Connie, or something along those lines, and has the the townspeople with her, because her crew are the people that are in the church with her that have been in the flashback. Does Bonnie make a deal with Connie, where Connie actually starts pretending to be Bonnie for Alpha for a while? Speaking of Alpha, I'm fully drinking the Kool-Aid that she is Khalifa's sister, because in Japanese, when you say Alpha, it would kind of sound like Khalifa, Alpha. And she's CP8, Khalifa's CP9. Lasky, Khalifa's dad, was in the O'Hara flashback as a Cypher Pole member. So it could just run in the family. This could be Lasky's other daughter, Alpha. Speed running through a couple of other really fun things in the chapter, Drake is there, and he was destined to be here. We talked about this at the beginning of Egghead in our initial predictions video, because when Drake is introduced at the archipelago, he is actually, technically, I think the second person to ever mention Vegapunk in the story, because when he sees the Pacifista use its laser, he's like, wait, Vegapunk not only used Kuma's body, he's incorporated Kizaru's lasers as well, implying that he knew about this project. So putting Drake here is exactly what is necessary. I thought that maybe Drake would show up in the present, could still technically happen, but this fixes the problem that I needed to see, him actually being there. That's a lot of fun. This leaves Smoker and Fujitora to be the only two characters that still need their connections to Vegapunk explained. Could the conversation that Smoker and Fujitora had about the Warlord system been in or around the waters of Egghead? The next time we see either of these two characters, will they be together? We see Croc calling out the rainmaking machine, which is what Smoker finds at the end of Alabasta. Doflamingo is the first Warlord that we cut to. He's also the first Warlord that was introduced with Kuma, so that's sort of fitting as well. The other big fun thing that we got in this chapter is confirmation that Kuma is the newest Warlord, which is a question that I have brought up a lot in the past however many years. I've always wanted to know who was the person who took the slot that Ace turned away. We learned during Marineford in the little Ace flashback that Ace was offered the position of Warlord. Kuma is the person who took that position. And we have been speculating that we would get this information through this flashback, and we did, and it is beautiful. Now, there are some translation differences that I've been seeing around where people think that this is just a couple of days later, but in the official, it's a little more vague, where they basically seem like maybe some time has passed since Ace took out this unnamed Warlord. During the stream, it was brought up, what if the Warlord that Ace beat is the man marked by flames? Now, that's an interesting prospect, man marked by flames, Ace, etc., but I still really want the man marked by flames to somehow be Saul. It seems implied that Saul is on Elbaf guarding the books, but what if everything that he learned from reading the books and protecting the books and everything caused him to take the poneglyph and keep it moving? Saul had a connection to the government just like the man marked by flames did, but if the man marked by flames was a warlord, then he would also have a connection to the government. So it works either way, but I just like that we finally got that confirmation. And I'm excited to dive deeper into that whenever Oda feels comfortable doing so. This chapter had a lot of emotion to it. I really liked the fact that Kuma was basically like, I don't care. Do whatever you need to do to me. Just save Bonnie. That's what makes a really great character. And when you see Bonnie give him that drawing, and then you see that it becomes the sail on his ship, that is just beautiful. Show don't tell. It wasn't somebody said, you know, Bonnie drew this picture for him and he made it his sail. That's so boring to hear something like that. But one of the issues that I'm having, just criticism-wise, with this flashback to begin with, and trust me, it is one of the best flashbacks that we've ever gotten, and it's still not over, is that a lot of the information we're getting is all stuff that we already knew in some form or fashion. There's not a lot of new to it. This idea that he's going to Foosha Village now, very new, great. But we've even seen parts of this over the course of the story, and now it's just being told to us in a linear fashion with a perspective. And in some cases, I wish there were certain things that we didn't get. I wish we never heard Saturn on the phone giving these orders before we actually got to it in this chapter. I wish there were still parts of Kuma's life that were a mystery to us. Like maybe we didn't know that he was the king of Sorbet. That would have been an interesting thing to find out on our own, to see it happen naturally. It was fun to see the God Valley stuff. We didn't know that, but I just wish there was more. You know, it's kind of like going back to the Odin flashback and seeing Roger go to Skypiea. Like, we knew that. Him going to Water 7, okay, well, Tom made the Oro Jackson, so we knew that that was going to happen. But we're seeing a different perspective of it and in real time. But Oda has been doing this a lot lately where it's like in, I don't know, it might have been 1053, somewhere around there, Kurouma, this character we've never met before, just shows up in a chapter to basically give us exposition. He's talking to Sakazuki and he's doing a rundown of everything that happened in Marijoa. And then we get to 1083 or 1084, and then we see everything that Kurouma like told us. So it wasn't new, and it kind of deflated that chapter. And that's a little bit of how I'm feeling a lot of the time with this flashback. Not that I don't love it. I love this. I just wish Oda held back on some of it. And I hope that other people can understand where I'm coming from with that. And that's why I'm really excited about the prospect of what we're going to get into next, because it's new. But how far will he go? And will he continue this trend of things we already know but seeing the other side of it? And don't get me wrong, I want to see that side. I want to see all of this. But this is the fun aspect of it. With going back to the Odin flashback and the Roger parallels that I was making, the fun thing about it was that we knew it happened, but we had no context of really what Roger's journey was like. But we at least had the context of what Skypiea and what Water 7 was. Being told things about Sorbet when we've never been there doesn't hit as hard as seeing Sorbet and then getting the context. That's why seeing things like another side of Thriller Bark or another side of the archipelago, that kind of stuff will be really fun to see because it's coming from a place of understanding. I don't want to be told new things about places we haven't been and characters that we don't know. But I love being told other sides of places we have been with characters that we do know, if that makes sense. But the best news of all is that there is no break. So we're going to get into this. And it also means that if I'm wrong, this video is going to spoil like milk. Because, I don't know, people probably already know the spoilers at this point. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up here. This was a really fun chapter. Hope you guys enjoyed some of the takes that I have here. If you do, please leave a like, leave a comment. Anything in the algorithm always helps. We did watch the Cross Guild episode. The reaction to that is on the second channel. Link is below. I think it is my new favorite episode. I am loving this. I'm really excited for everything to get animated in this saga. There's a lot of fun things to get into here. So we will be back streaming chapter 1101 next Sunday. Get ready for that, and then we'll be back here in analysis, as always, Monday or Tuesday. So thank you to everybody that supports the channel, all of our members. Appreciate all of you. Seriously. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're feeling the vibe.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.